Hello, I'm Jake Boudreau, civic journalist at Tello Community Television. This week, on The Record, we look at the Committee of the Whole session of Richmond Municipal Council. We update the court case of a 30-year-old Antigonish woman charged with accessing patient records at St. Martha's Regional Hospital. Provincial parks are opening for the season, but one local park will have limited access. We also look at honors bestowed upon grade 11 students and retiring staff of the Strait Regional Centre for Education. Richmond Municipal Council held its Committee of the Whole session on May 13th in Ayrshire. At the start of the meeting, District 5 Councillor Brent Sampson asked about new provincial all-terrain vehicle rules and the potential impact on the municipality. Last spring, the Road Trails Act was passed, allowing four-wheeled and two-wheeled off-highway vehicles to access the shoulders of roads and the road itself where necessary, to travel safely from one trail to another or to access facilities like gas stations in designated areas. Only registered, licensed, and insured off-highway vehicles can operate on the shoulders or the road in the designated areas. The operator must have a valid driver's license, wear a helmet, and all passengers on an off-highway vehicle must be 9 years or older. So Brent, at the beginning of the council meeting, you alluded to some discussion about ATVs. Maybe you can elaborate on what that was?
Yeah, so a few months back now, the province had a pilot project for quite some time, and then they decided to expand this to allow ATV usage on certain roadways. So we're just waiting to hear back. I think staff is looking into this as to, when it was announced, there wasn't a lot of clear information, I don't believe, from the province. So we're just wanting to find out exactly what steps to move forward, because we've had some interest from ATV groups about possibly applying for certain sections of roadway. It would basically make them part of the trail system.
Mm-hmm. So this is different from the legislation that was passed in the fall, the trails, or the I can't remember the exact name.
Yeah, it may have been that far back in the fall. It's just trying to get basically clarification as to what we can do. Like, so most of the roads here wouldn't be municipally owned. The J class ones, we may have, some say in how that goes, but we're not 100% sure yet. So we just want to make sure we know exactly how to approach this properly.
Then it was confirmed that Breland Construction was awarded the tender for the former West Richmond Education School building in Evanston. Warden Amanda Mumberket said Breland had a strong bid for the surplus property. District 3 Councillor Melanie Sampson said council has been talking about uses for the building for a long time, and she said this is exciting news. So I guess first off, your reaction to the tender for the West Richmond Education, or the former West Richmond Education Center building. You seem to be pretty excited about that.
We're very excited. It's been a long road for us to, right off the bat, get clear title to that building, and then to create a plan that would ensure that we knew that it was going to be declared surplus, so we were trying to create a plan where it would support some key priorities for us here in Richmond County, one of those being related to housing. And so we're really excited about the proposal that was put forward by Brela. And next steps will be to work through what are the what needs to take place and what that contract will look like. So we're just really looking forward to, I guess, working with Jeremy Carroll and his team on getting that contract in place and moving forward with a project that could be a real feather in the cap of Richmond County and could provide some affordable housing opportunities for people as well, but also being really adjacent to the Strait Richmond Hospital, support the work that's happening there as well. So it's exciting times, and I guess the message I would say to folks is to stay tuned for more to come.
About Breland, what's I assume the tender was based on bids and things like that, but they seem to be a company that's kind of I don't know, on the go, or
absolutely.
On the
It's a company that I know has got their hand in several projects in the southern end of Cape Breton Island here. and, definitely some, folks who are interested in taking action. And that's a key point for us. I mean, there's oftentimes when, municipal projects will kind of involve private developers, and sometimes if the work doesn't get started, you kind of, those properties, they tend to fall away. And so we're really interested in making sure that that there's action that gets taken sooner rather than later as a result of this. But Breela seems to definitely have the horsepower to do that. It's a locally run company, and these are folks who are vested in our community, which I think makes a great big difference, because they want to see the community succeed and they want to see it prosper.
During the presentations portion of the meeting, Gina McDonald with Cape Breton South Recruiting for Health told Council about her group's efforts to recruit healthcare professionals to the region. McDonald requested $36,300 from the municipality towards operational costs. Talking about Gina McDonald's presentation for Cape Breton South Recruiting for Health, and it seems like the big job right now is recruiting healthcare professionals to come and live in Cape Breton. It seems like it's a selling job, and that seems to be the big piece in recruitment right now, is basically selling this area. Is that you see it, and do you see it has it been successful?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, really, when I think about the work that Gina and the team at Cape Breton South Recruiting for Health are doing, you're right, Jake, it is a little bit of a selling job, there's no question, but we know how beautiful this area is, and we know about the quality of life that we enjoy here, and something we're very proud of, and something we want to talk with folks about. But it really, a big part of Gina's work is also about building capacity in our communities as well, and in our community of care. So we're really trying to foster that sense of collaboration, not just, within teams, but within, amongst facilities throughout the whole southern area of Cape Breton Island, because we know that that's what makes a location attractive for people to practice in. So it's really a bit of a twofold approach, is kind of building that capacity, but also creating that welcoming environment.
Lisa McHugh with the Renest Furniture Society made a presentation about her group's efforts to find housing and furnishings for those in need of housing in the area. After detailing some of the work her group does, McHugh requested any donations people are able to give, and she put out a call for anyone who owns a truck to help move some of the furniture they are able to collect. Now, talking about the presentation from, I believe it was Lisa McHugh with Renest Furniture Society, and talking about people sleeping in their cars, people sleeping on floors of places without furniture.
It's desperate.
Those are hard stories to hear.
They're hard stories to hear, and the reality is that they're happening right here in our own backyards. And sometimes, we've done a lot of research into, homelessness and people who are precariously housed in this region, and a lot of times it's hidden because, they are sleeping in their car, or they are, on a neighbor's couch or in a spare bedroom, and all of that. There's no security in that for people, and it has a devastating effect on people, on families, and on communities. So, the work that Renest is doing is just absolutely commendable. So I would echo her comments, and that if folks do have, a spare minute and a truck to help, deliver furniture, it seems to be their biggest need. Not only are they accepting the donations, but they need to get those donations to these families who are in these, these situations that are starting from scratch. So if you do have a vehicle, I would encourage people to reach out to them. And we're going to put that information on our website about how to contact them.
While councillors said they support the effort behind No Mow May to help with the lagging bee population, municipal staff did express concerns that overgrown vegetation can pose safety hazards. You guys mentioned No Mow May, and you guys talked about the fact that there's some safety issues associated with that, and you heard some concerns that came back from your staff. Maybe you can talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so the county the last number of years has supported the No Mow May campaign. We've got some signs, where we put those up to show, our residents that this is why we're not mowing the lawn. But at the end of the day, depending on the season, the grass can grow really, really quickly. So we do run into situations sometimes, and I think there were, that staff was starting to become concerned about that towards the end of May last year, where they couldn't necessarily see what was in the grass ahead of them, that there could be hidden objects there, and so it became a bit of a safety concern as well. So we're just asking them to use their judgment. If they feel that the grass length is getting, or the density is getting to a point where it is creating a safety hazard, to use their judgment on that. But in general, we're still very much wanting to support that campaign.
District 3 Councillor Melanie Sampson said the municipality's current policy limits council's ability to erect streetlights on roads with less than 4 permanent residents, and she asked whether the policy can be tweaked. District 5 Councillor Brent Sampson expressed concern that any change in policy could be unfair to those on private roads. Council later decided to send the issue to the Municipal Bylaw and Policy Committee.
Now, as far as putting streetlights on roads, you mentioned the fact that private roads could be a problem. Maybe you want to expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, so my worry was in that case was if somebody has a streetlight on a private road at the moment, they're paying for it. So if we were to change this bylaw, technically it wouldn't be fair, in my opinion, to all those people that are already paying for it on private roads. So without knowing how much that could possibly cost us, if we had, all of a sudden a huge amount coming back to us saying, okay, well now can the county cover the cost of this? I was just a little concerned to go into that, to make changes to that without really knowing the full scope of what the financial implications could be, I guess. But I was more comfortable after thinking about Councillor Dignan's thought about how, if the limitation there is the number of residents on the road, whether or not they're permanent residents, the property tax doesn't really change. So, I think that's a reasonable consideration, and I guess we'll discuss that when it comes to the time at the Policy and Bylaw Committee.
Now, do you support changing the bylaw as far as putting in streetlights on roads with 4 permanent residents? Do you think that bylaw deserves to be changed, or at the very least reconsidered or looked at?
Yeah, I would kind of, from my perspective, I would lump this in with sort of a suite of things we need to be doing to kind of improve service to people who live on private roads, and what are some of the ways that we could better work with the folks who are developing subdivisions, with private roads, and streetlights are a part of that, because they illuminate the road. It's a safety issue, but it's also one that I think we could be looking at a little bit more closely. So definitely in favor of checking into that a little bit more. As with any policy that a council is going to develop, it may make sense at the moment that it's developed, but as time progresses, certainly in this case, a whole housing crisis has emerged, so maybe there are some other things that, that we need to be looking at, either adding into it or, or removing from it. So I'm definitely supportive of having the conversation, but I'll be very interested to hear back from staff and from actually, frankly, some developers to find out what would be useful to them.
Interim Chief Financial Officer Jim Davis recommended that the Richmond River Roots Market Garden Society be approved for $9,200 in municipal funding under the Type 4 Regional Health General Grant Fund.
Now, you call the Richmond River Roots Market Garden project exciting. Maybe you can go into a little bit about that project.
Well, I don't want to speak too much on behalf of the project. It's kind of like, for the project details, I would definitely refer to them, but they're looking at hosting a series of workshops that would, increase local food awareness and teach some skills, and I think that's very much a needed thing in our community. Food security is a big issue. We live on an island, and I think anything that we can be doing to increase our food security is a really good thing, not just from a transportation of food perspective, but also from an affordability perspective. So these kinds of workshops will make a big difference in people's daily lives and in how they're able to prepare food and prepare healthy food.
Now, is it a matter of bad timing for them coming, that this ask is coming just before you guys have finalized your budget, and it's kind of caught in the middle there?
Yeah, I anticipate that by next month we'll be able to make a decision on that particular grant, and there's a couple of others that are in the hopper as well.
In 2019, the Municipal Profile and Financial Condition Indicators result concluded that although Richmond County had challenges, it was considered at low risk for financial instability. However, the report showed that the municipality was experiencing challenges managing tax revenue collection. On May 13th, Council reacted to the recent report, which was provided by the Department of Municipal Affairs and Housing.
Now, how did the municipality do on the municipal profile and financial condition indicators index for 2021 and 2022? You alluded to
Yeah.
some good performance. So what was
Yeah.
the spot?
Yeah, Richmond County is in a really strong position, I would say, from a viability perspective, and that's a big part of what the municipal financial indicators measure. Our outstanding receivables are heading in the right direction. They're heading down. You can see that the work of staff is really starting to pay off. Having 2 tax sales a year instead of 1, and trying to make sure that those outstanding pieces are taken off of our accounts, so that they're, we're making the most of the taxpayers' investment here. So it was a good report all around. Definitely always going to be some work that we could do, but so far, our viability standards are pretty good right across the board.
After some debate where District 2 Councillor Michael Digdon noted that the municipality's policies were not followed, and despite a nay vote from District 3 Councillor Melanie Sampson, Council approved $5,000 to the St. Peters and District Volunteer Fire Department to install a dry hydrant in River Bourgeois. Although he expressed misgivings, District 5 Councillor Brent Sampson voted in favor of the motion. At the regular monthly meeting on April 22nd, the District 3 Councillor said she understood that the department installed a dry hydrant, but their application was denied because they didn't follow the policy. Digdon said the fire department felt they couldn't wait, so they built a road to the dry hydrant and hired an engineer to design a system at a cost of almost $30,000. According to the councillor, they violated the policy by hiring an engineer on their own rather than reaching out to the Director of Public Works. Emergency Management Coordinator Steve Marcellus told council that conversations on dry hydrants go back to 2019. During the question period, former Fire Services Committee member Paul Shears questioned why councillors sitting on the municipal committee did not point to a March 2023 letter where some of the chiefs in the county pointed to the necessity of installing dry hydrants in areas of the municipality not serviced by municipal water or sewer.
Now, as far as the funding for the St. Peters and District Volunteer Fire Department, is there a worry about setting a bad precedent there because the policy wasn't followed to a T? That you might be opening a can of worms, as Councillor Digdon indicated?
I think Councillor Digdon makes a great point, and I think any time we make an exception to policy, we worry about that, and it's our job to worry about that. It's the reason that the people elect us, is to create policy that works for them. So we've obviously, by the level of uptake, which has been 0 in this policy, we obviously need to do some work to it. So our voice there is the Fire Services Committee, so we're referring that back to them. And then it'll come through bylaw policy to come back to this council. So I'm hoping that can happen really quickly, because we'd like to see some additional dry hydrant infrastructure in the communities where our fire departments feel it's needed the most. It's certainly been an issue of contention in the past, but the only way we're going to get there is by collaborating together to make that happen. So I'm looking forward to the next part of the discussion on that.
And you're not sure if or it's not a matter of necessarily bad policy, just might be a little bit of a tweak to the policy itself, and probably better that it go to the fire services so it can really get that scrutiny and that input that it needs.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's exactly the point. We don't like to be developing policy in a vacuum. We want to make sure that it's it's going to serve the needs of the people it's designed to serve, and if that's not happening, then we need we're obligated to fix it. And I will say, in all fairness, it was the first time that we had looked at developing this type of policy. In the past, there had been no support for dry hydrants in Richmond County from the county. So we're definitely taking steps in the right direction. But there was no question we weren't gonna get it 100% right out the gate. But it was a good starting point, and now we'll have a basis for discussion on improvements. The reality is we're going to face financial constraints and all kinds of other issues. But like I said, if we're only going to work through it if we're collaborating together.
Now, the $5,000 funding for the St. Peters and District Volunteer Fire Department, that generated some debate. The policy wasn't followed, and you decided and voted to give them the funding, despite a nay vote from District 3 Councillor Melanie Sampson. You felt that they did enough to justify giving the funding.
Yeah, and as a member of that committee, I was aware of this going on. They've never hidden the fact that they were moving forward with this. There was, there was some trouble with how the policy was laid out, and I don't think people were clear on how it may work for them. They had time limitations in order to get it in within the proper season, because the Department of Environment will only let them do things at certain times. So they decided to move forward anyway. Would I support that kind of thing every time going forward? No, not necessarily. And I think that's why it's important for us to go back and adjust this policy, because as much as we did it with the best of intentions, it's probably not, well, it isn't working out the way we had hoped. So, we go back and see what adjustments can be made, speak again to the Fire Services Committee, and then hopefully improve it so it's more beneficial going forward.
A 30-year-old woman from Antigonish was charged for inappropriately accessing the health records of thousands of people while she was employed at St. Martha's Regional Hospital. On April 10th, Antigonish County District RCMP said they responded to a complaint regarding a potential breach of the Personal Health Information Act at a local hospital over a period of about 5 months. An RCMP press release states that an admitting clerk at the hospital viewed 2,690 patient records between May 1st and October 4th, 2023. The RCMP noted that the patient records were not pertinent to the clerk's duties at the hospital. Antigonish County District RCMP said they charged Sarah Emily DeWolf with willfully gaining or attempting to gain access to health information in contravention of Section 16 of the Personal Health Information Act. The RCMP said DeWolf is scheduled to appear in Antigonish Provincial Court on July 17th. The RCMP added that there is no evidence at this time to indicate that DeWolf disclosed patient records. Provincial parks in the region are opening for the season. Some parks opened on the Victoria Day weekend. Others opened on May 31st, while Battery Park in St. Peters, Boylston Provincial Park, Salzman Provincial Park in Country Harbour, and Waikagama Provincial Park will open on June 7th. The provincial government said this year's capital plan invested $11.8 million for provincial park repairs and upgrades, with potential projects assessed and prioritized based on visitor safety and experience. Confirmed projects include multi-year redevelopment work in Waikagama, which entails road upgrades. The provincial government does not know how long it will take to fix the road leading to a local park. After a sinkhole closed the road leading to Lennox Passage Provincial Park in Martinique last fall, one lane is now open to allow people to access the park. Aaron Lynch, a spokesperson for the Department of Natural Resources and Renewables, said the road to the park was damaged after heavy rainfall that fell between November 19th and 24th. She said local weather stations reported that approximately 170 millimeters fell in that time. The area that was washed out was barricaded for public safety, Lynch noted. On May 17th, Lynch said Lennox Passage Provincial Park opened with one-lane access. Lynch said the department made an application to the Department of Fisheries and Oceans for a permit to complete the other lane, noting that work in fish habitat is only permitted from June 1st to September 30th. Since they are in the planning stages, Lynch added that the department does not have a start date or timeline for how long the work will take. The Strait Regional Centre for Education hosted its annual Celebrating Service Retirement Banquet on May 24th. The honorees of 2024 include Alfred Boudreau, school bus driver with additional duties at Richmond Education Centre / Academy, Marvin Burke, school bus driver at East Richmond Education Centre, Lisa Burt, teacher at Felix Marchand Education Centre, Janet Carter, school secretary, East Richmond Education Centre, Heather Graham, teacher at Tamarack Education Centre. Judy Landry, janitor at Felix Marchand Education Centre. Valerie Landry, teacher assistant at Richmond Education Centre / Academy. Caroline McPhee, janitor at Felix Marchand Education Centre. Leanne Palm, teacher at Tamarack Education Centre. Sonia Sauve, principal at East Richmond Education Centre. And Belinda Shea, administrative assistant in the Property Services and Operations Department. Grade 11 students in the Strait Regional Centre for Education were awarded the Lieutenant Governor's Education Medals. The award is given to students who have demonstrated leadership and service in the school and community, as well as commendable performances in their courses. At a ceremony held at the Port Hawkesbury Civic Centre on May 22nd, Arthur J. LeBlanc, Lieutenant Governor of Nova Scotia, presented the medals. They included Richmond Academy students Emily Grimes and Blake Tanner, as well as Sarek students Ella Ann Bartlett and Chloe Michelle Phillips. Thank you for watching. Please tune in again to see what we will be talking about on The Record.